High Velocity Wrestling is a professional wrestling promotion based in Western North Carolina. HVW's events provide a family atmosphere featuring old school pro wrestling with a modern day flair, giving a little something for everyone. Hey, what is up? Welcome back to the program. Good God, it's been a minute. This is the official High Velocity Wrestling podcast. I'm your host, Tom Clark. What's up, kids? HVW Director of Social Media here, Tom Clark. As always, hope you guys are doing freaking fantastic. Happy Monday to you. It's been a hot minute, hasn't it? It's been like 3 months. I don't know what it's been. It's been a long time. Hope you guys are doing great, no matter where you may be watching the stream from. If you got friends who are pro wrestling fans, you tell them there's nowhere else to be at 8 o'clock on Monday night except right here with us, okay? That's how we roll. So please share the link. Let everybody know that we're here. Let them know that the dude in the black shirt's back with the pop vinyls behind him. That's right. I'm a gigantic man-child. I know what I am. My wife's not happy about it, but you know what? She lives with it. You know why? Love, baby. Why else? Anyway, let's get to pro wrestling. Gary Benfield, HVW owner promoter. Gary, what's up, brother? How you doing, man?
What's up, man? It's been way too long, Tom. How are you?
It's been a heck of a long time. And as we continue to get some folks to stream in here, we again want to remind everybody, please share this link as much as you possibly can. We're sharing it to the Twitter machine as we speak, so everybody there can get a good bird's eye view of what we're talking about here. We got some big stuff to cover.
Yes, sir.
We're going to try to cram it in as much as we can. Gary, how have you been, my friend?
Dude. It's been a rough couple months, but hey, things are looking up. We got some things to talk about. Some old friends going to join us tonight, and man, I'm excited to make some announcements, Tom.
Absolutely. I got 3 computers going at one time. That's how we roll, baby. So before we go any further in the weeds here, kids, as it were, let's bring in 2 gentlemen that if you are pro wrestling fans, especially here in the great state of North Carolina, you may or may not know. Hopefully you know. And if you don't, you're going to meet them now. So what's up? Please welcome to the podcast, Mr. Chad Jones and Mr. Cole McAbee. What's up, gentlemen? Thank you for joining us here tonight.
Pleasure.
Yeah, definitely. Pleasure's mine.
What's up, guys?
So we've got a lot of stuff to cover here tonight. If any of you folks have been checking out social media over the past couple of months or so, you've been seeing the posters. If you live in the right town, as it were, you've been seeing the posters, hopefully in your area. We got a big event coming up on Saturday, October 2nd. Chad, we're going to throw it to you straight out the gate here. Tell the folks out there what we're looking at on Saturday, October 2nd.
So Saturday, October the 2nd is the 4th show that we ran with Heroes to Legends Wrestling. And so people understand what we do with Heroes to Legends Wrestling. The idea behind the company is that it is a charity outreach. The only thing that we do is fundraisers. There's nothing for profit for us. Every show we run 2 a year in May, and then in October, we pick a charity, and all the funds or all the proceeds, go to that charity. The last show, what we started doing was we incorporated this as using it as a youth outreach or a youth ministry. And what we do there is we have guys come in and just give testimony, talk about how the Lord's worked in their life, that kind of thing, just share the gospel. And then there's a couple pastors from my hometown, from Refuge Church, Shane Ruffton, and from the Bridge, Josh Hyde. They help out with it. They do the closing message and everything. So what we do is we do fundraisers, but we double them up as youth rallies, and we just try to spread the word of God.
Yeah,
and this concept, Chad.
I wish I could say it's an original concept. But it's professional wrestling, so everybody plagiarized somebody. And I actually got the idea from the Christian Wrestling Federation out in Rockwall, Texas, owned by a guy named Rob Vaughn, who's been doing it for years. Had everybody from AJ Styles to Tim Storm on his roster at one time or another. So that's really where I got the idea. I mean, I really lifted it from them and started implementing a little bit each show until I got it where I wanted it. and it's a work in progress. We grow every time, you know.
It looks like a top-notch card, and we've got Cole. We've got something very special here. Tell the folks out there your place in all this. Tell them who you are and what you do, and then let's talk about this card that we got in front of us here.
All right. Well, I'm actually the promoter for Pro Wrestling Union, and Chad and we've actually worked together on a couple of these cards already before. Chad, who was our very first Pro Wrestling Union heavyweight champion, um, and we have gotten together and do this stuff. So, like he said, like back in May, we had the challenge Wrestling with Life's Challenges, which was a tremendous show, and we knew that something else was going to be coming up. Chad threw out the ideas to me, told us about the charity for Shop with a Cop. And of course, I was on board with it, and it just kept growing and growing from there. And we haven't even mentioned that it's not only Heroes of Legends Wrestling with Pro Wrestling Union, we also have High Velocity Wrestling with us, and of course Gary and Tom, which is a pleasure to have something like this just keep growing and growing with more promotions being part of this to do something very, very awesome, not only for the community, but also to put on a fantastic wrestling show as well. So,
Chris.
Yeah, so I'm going to double back a little bit now that Cole, because as he was speaking, things hit my mind. You asked me to explain what the show is. Well, obviously, it's Shop with a Cop. The Jackson County Sheriff's Department over in Sylvan, Jackson County, North Carolina, they run every year, like a lot of places, they run a Shop with a Cop program where disadvantaged kids and this, that, and the other, they'll get to go to Walmart and Christmas shop with a police officer, A lot of people don't know this in Jackson County, and I'm sure, surrounding counties and stuff, they have their issues and their numbers too, but right now, 1 in every 32 children in Jackson County is dealing with homelessness in some form. Whether they're outright homeless or they're bouncing around or they're in the system, they're doing without basic things that we all take for granted, like, clothing and hygiene gear, stuff like that. And the reason that I picked this charity last year, I worked with a lady named Beth James, who works with the Department of Juvenile Justice, and another lady named Ashley Taylor, who works with multiple charities. Because of COVID, the Sheriff's Department wasn't able to run their regular fundraisers. And we had some kids, slipping through the cracks and stuff. And so, 0 hour, we're jumping through hoops, going to churches, going to individual donors and stuff. I had one kid, he just wanted a pair of basketball shoes. That's all he wanted. God stepped in, and we didn't have any kids that went without. But I made up my mind then that this was my October charity, because I wanted to make sure, that we didn't have any kids slipping through the cracks. And I'd rather be proactive than reactive. That's just the way I operate. So if I can get a jump on this in October and it not hit me in the face the second week of December, that's exactly what we want to do. So that's where the idea for the show comes from and everything. And I was very fortunate that the sheriff in Jackson County, Chip Hall, was gracious enough to, let us do this for him.
That stat you gave, you said 1 in 33. That is a staggering number in 2021.
It's 1 in every 32 children in Jackson County schools. So in school-age children is dealing with homelessness on some level.
That is
that's unheard of.
That's mind-blowing.
Well, and I would venture to say that, you get into bigger areas, because Hendersonville's 2 or 3 times the size of Silva. Henderson County is way bigger. I guarantee you, if you really dug into their numbers, it's just as bad or worse.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it is, man. HVW and my motorcycle ministry has been involved with the Salvation Army for years. Right. And every year that angel tree thing is just, man, it's unreal. It's just unreal. It really is.
And like you said, unfortunately, for better or worse, we do tend to take those things for granted. I mean, a lot of our kids just started back to school, and you go buy the school supplies and the backpack and had to get them new clothes and new Nikes and new this and new that. And it's just such part of the equation. Like, it's something we do every year. But then you got to stop and think how many kids are wearing the same shoes 2 years in a row, and they're feet are too big for them now. I mean, it's disheartening. Cole, the idea of taking what should be fun and pro wrestling kids, shocker, it's still supposed to be fun, right? So something that's supposed to be fun and that we enjoyed as kids more than likely, and still enjoy as grown men today, we could take this and share with the community and get these kids involved in some form or fashion and let them know, hey, there's people here that care about you. And plus you get to see a cool wrestling show. I mean, what better can it be? It's almost like getting to meet superheroes in real life. I mean, you know what I'm saying? So
it's always nice when we can do stuff like that, Tom. You know,
yeah, for sure. So Cole, were you and I'm gonna Chad, I'll throw this to you as well. When it comes to again, like I just mentioned with pro wrestling and everything, were you guys fans of this stuff growing up as well? We don't have to get too far in the weeds in terms of where you've been and everything, but I mean, the public here knows who you are. So, Cole, we'll start with you. Were you always a fan of this stuff growing up, or did you come to it later, or what happened?
All right, Tom, I'm not sure if it's on my end or what it is, but it seems like the sound feedback's kind of coming out like it's got like a weird distortion to it and high pitch, so I'm having a hard time understanding that off.
Hey, hold on, guys. I think Crystal's going to turn it off. I think it's the air conditioner on my camper. Hold on a second. She's going to go turn it off. It just kicked on.
We're going to sweat him out of there. We're going to sweat him out of there.
Sorry about that, guys.
It's all good.
Oh, you're good. You're good. I thought we were being invaded by aliens or something for a second.
When it kicked on, I thought, I wonder if they hear that.
I definitely heard it. I just thought you had somebody driving by or something. So
I'm not going to pretend I understood a word that you just said.
Can you understand? Can you get me now? Am I coming through to you? Oh, there we go. Better.
Let me try something on my end because I don't know if it's just through my phone. I don't know if anybody else is having the same issue. Give me 1 second. I'll be right back.
Go ahead. Okay, Chad, I'll throw it to you while Cole works on his connection there. When it comes to wrestling, man, is this something you've always followed? Did you get into it at a later date, or how'd that go for you?
Oh man, it's my early memories are sitting on my grandparents' floor watching wrestling, and my two uncles, Randy and Wayne, putting me in the figure four and body slamming me on the couch and suplexing me in the creek and just whatever else. So, it was, really, I tell people that being a professional wrestler is all I ever really wanted to do besides be a U.S. Marine. And I was one of those people that fortunate enough to get to live both dreams. But yeah, definitely earliest memories of professional wrestling. My mother lived in Joshua, Texas, which is about maybe 45 minutes from downtown Dallas. And the very early 80s, I want to say I was 5. The first summer I went out there, they took me to the Sportatorium, and my stepdad carried me right down the aisle. And when David Von Erich came down the aisle, he rubbed me on the head. And ever since, man, hooked. As Abyss said in the locker room that night, Gary,
yeah, hooked.
Been hooked ever since. And, it's like Killer Brooks said when I first went to training. He said, once you get the itch, it never goes away. Doesn't matter how old you get. I've stepped away from the business a couple times, and I always wind up coming back on some level. So, but I'll pass back off to Cole because it looks like we got him. Back. And
I think he's good now. Thank you.
He looks bored and he looks like he feels left out. So let's get Cole involved.
I always look this unimpressed. I'm like that.
Tough crowd. So Cole, Chad had always wanted to be a wrestler, but you're a promoter. I mean, was actually being a talent in the ring something you were interested in, or you're more like gravitating behind the scenes?
Well, the thing is that I started off as a wrestler and everything like that. Well, actually, before I started off as a wrestler, I got pulled in as a commentator, and this was by accident, to be honest. I had originally worked in radio a long, long time ago, and then eventually that got morphed into me becoming a manager because I made some guy in a ring in North Carolina. Actually, it was Whittier, North Carolina, I believe it was. out at a place called Uncle Bill's Flea Market. Um, they used to have these outdoor wrestling shows years and years ago.
Yeah.
And they had this one guy, and I can't remember his name for anything, but he was like sitting there, like doing like, well, I see 32 people on this end, so that we got a whole row of teeth. And I'm like just basically giving him the business to the point that he was stammering. And next thing you know, the guy that was the promoter said, "Hey, kid, you a worker?" And I'm like, I have a job. I had no idea what he was talking about, but eventually he gave me a shot as a manager, and it just morphed into wrestling. But no, I always wanted to be the behind the scenes guy. Because I never considered myself as a talent. I never considered myself as being anybody better than maybe just like the guy that helps somebody else move on to the next step. I don't consider myself the greatest worker, but I consider myself as somebody that had a good eye for talent. So that eventually led me to wanting to go into booking, which eventually led into promoting. And after about nearly 18 years, it eventually happened. So,
Gary, it kind of sounds like both Chad and Cole's stories are kind of yours, just kind of melded together.
Yes, sir. A little bit of both from both guys, huh, Tom?
Yeah, big time. You're talking about earliest memories, man. The earliest memory I have on this planet is going to a wrestling show with my dad. And the two things I remembered was Ric Flair's robe and Wahoo McDaniel's headdress.
nice.
And I may be 2 and he's holding me, but I vividly remember seeing that and just being hooked, like you said, hooked from that day on. So we got to talk about this card, man, because I've been seeing the match cards pop up. We've been trying to share them to HVW's social media as often as we can. Who wants to tell me about this card? Chad, I'm going to throw it to you first. Tell me what we got in store for fans on October 2nd.
Well, I mean, I'll tell you a little bit about it, and then I'll pass off to Cole some too, because
Yes.
I just like the sound of Cole's voice. But we gotta, we had, like anybody that's ever promoted, anybody that's ever booked or anything in wrestling, sometimes you gotta, as Matt Sigmund said to me the other day, you gotta learn how to bump and feed sometimes. We've had a couple hiccups already, and we've had to do some adjustments with the card. And first one I'll talk about is the what I'll call, the tag match that I want to see is the Koloff dynasty. Neil Koloff and Alexander Koloff against Caleb Conley and Zane Riley. That match alone is going to be a main event on any card in the Southeast. And, I'm just excited to see it. It brings out the fan in me. That's the fun thing about booking sometimes and promoting is it brings out the fan in me. I become a fan again for the right situation in a good old school tag team match. Guys that, really know how to go out there and do their job. It'll bring the kid out in me again. I'll probably be out there bouncing around, driving y'all crazy while you're trying to do commentary or something because I'll be so excited. So that's the first match. Cole, you want to pick one up from there?
Let's see. Where can I pick up on? Well, I do see right here on the card itself, we have WCW alumni, Lodi, going against one of the guys that's been around on several of the Heroes to Legends shows, Travis Roberts.
Yeah.
And this was a conversation that that I know that Chad had with me not too long ago, is that Travis, behind the scenes, has been a tremendous help with a lot of stuff. For some of the previous shows, like, he's donated like the ring and everything like that for Chad. But then at this last show, he did everything he possibly could to help out with anything that was asked of him, and anything beyond that, he would just volunteer, and it was either yeah, you're good, and all that other stuff.
Well, I'll just step in and tell on Travis, because I think sometimes you got to give a guy an attaboy. You got to say thank you and pat somebody on the back. And
yeah,
for me, man, Travis Roberts is that guy who every show I've ever been at, he's the first one to, hey, what do you need? What can I do? This last show, we'll get to the situation with Buck later, but Buck had his medical issue. We had to find a ring. Then it became a money issue. Travis stepped up, and Travis paid half the ring rental last time, so we didn't have to take money out of the donations in the door to pay for the ring. That's the type of human being Travis Roberts is outside of the ring. But what I want to see inside the ring, and I hope Travis is watching this, what I want to see inside the ring, and I've said this since I watched Travis break into business, Travis's build, Travis's look, his temperament in the ring, he could be this region's version of Vader if he would pick it up and find that nasty mean streak in there. And I really hope that October 2nd we see that mean streak. Because this is the match of a lifetime. This is the match for Travis Roberts to go against somebody who's been all over the world, been all over TV, is known everywhere he goes. This is the match, young man, where you can write your own ticket. You can get noticed at this point. And that, as the booker, is Chad Jones. This isn't Randy Wayne talking. This is the booker going, I believe in giving everybody a shot. Well, here's your shot. So, Travis, you better bring that mean streak, because if you don't, I've wrestled Lodi, and he's going to bring it to you. So,
back in the day, Chad, I had Travis and Tank Hurley in a tag team called the Destruction Crew, and we called Travis Bulldozer. Bulldozer needs to be exposed against Lodi because he was mean back then. He was mean.
Yeah, he needs to find that again in there. That's what I want to see. Cole, you want to tell them about the second tag match?
Yes, I do. We have coming back out from Texas, of course. We got Bam Bam Malone and Johnny Lawless. They're going to be facing two guys that are very familiar in the pro wrestling union scene. One of them being the All-American Blue Chipper, Chase Emery, and his tag team partner, the Anomaly, Antonio Morgan. And, of course, they'll be led to the ring by their manager, G. Frederick Vanderford, somebody that's like a thorn in my side since day one. But,
It is what it is.
It is what it is, but it's going to be – I think this match I'm also very excited for. I know you said that you were going to feel like a kid again. With the Koloffs and the Revolt. This one's going to be a great dynamic because if you honestly look at the complete format on each side of the ring, you've got four tremendous athletes. I mean, top-notch athletes. Bam Bam is just a phenomenal specimen. Johnny, who, he's done all sorts of sports, including figure skating. And, that's one of those things you wouldn't think of a guy like that as a figure skater, but that takes a lot of coordination, grace, and things like that.
Yes, sir.
And stuff like that actually applies very well in the professional wrestling ring.
Yeah, I'll say this, Tom, Gary, any fans that come from Hendersonville and HVW side to see this show, you guys are in for a treat. Bam Bam and Johnny. They come from the Christian Wrestling Federation, the group that I mentioned a little earlier when we were talking privately, out of Rockwall, Texas. And they come out to represent them, and they help because of the ministry side of this. And Johnny's also a pastor.
Awesome.
But, he was in Disney on Ice for years. He was an alternate in the Olympics.
Wow.
So, and Bam Bam, I mean, the dude, Bam Bam is everything you would have thought in a physical appearance and ability for that good-looking, cocky 80s heel. He reminds me of a much younger Brody Ray Chase. He's that good. Yeah. And, him and Drake, JD Drake had a barn burner last show that we ran in Silva. So I'm excited to see this match too, because, man, I'm going to say this, he and I have our issues in ring, but I haven't seen many kids come down the pike like Chase Emery in a while. This kid's special. He has really got that entire, what you call in baseball, a five-tool player. Chase is a five-tool player in professional wrestling, and really, if he sticks it out and stays clean and keeps everything and go, man, he can ride his own ticket. So, I don't know a whole lot about Antonio. I mean, Derek, he's got a goofy shaped head, whatever, but I'm excited to see the tag match side of it.
Yeah. Well, I was also going to say real quick, because with Chase Emery, you got a collegiate wrestling athlete who's won several championships and medals, and
Right.
Antonio's a former football player. He walked on to the University of South Carolina, and then he actually ended up walking on to getting tryouts in the NFL. So you got to think about how impressive of an athlete you got to be that somebody will just allow you to walk on and stuff like that. And he's a powerful guy. He's a menace. So
Definitely.
but he's going up against two big guys out of Texas. So it's gonna be an interesting dynamic for sure.
All right, Gary, let's pass off to you, man. You and Tom talk about the women's match.
Well,
Yeah.
hold on. Before we get there, there's one other match on this card that I want to mention that, and I want the fans to look forward to this match too, because there's a young man in it and another young man, but he's a veteran of the business, and that's Kay Holiday and Dylan Dollar. And man, I'm gonna tell you, Dylan, for this kid to be his size, I want people to watch him work. And just know that anybody that's got the heart of a lion like Dylan Dollar does can step in the ring and do what he does. And Kay Holiday, this kid's gonna make something in this business. He's like the Chase Emery kid you're talking about. He's just got something special, and somebody will notice that one day.
Yeah, and that goes back to some of the stuff I said about Travis. Holiday is from Silva. He's a hometown kid like myself, and him and Dylan and Travis are the three guys. They're there. They beat me to the building the last two shows. They're there until I leave at the end of the night. All three of them. What do you need? What can I do? Can I go get the catering? Can I do this? Whatever it is. So when those guys came to me and said, hey, we want to square this beef we got away. I said, okay, that's an easy fix. You got the format. Go do your thing. So I'm excited about it. Because I feel like they both got something to prove. And when a man's got something to prove, special things happen on nights like that. So I'm excited for that match. I think it can be the sleeper match on the card and steal the show.
I think Dylan will pop the crowd because people don't expect to see a guy his size do the things he does. And when that Joker dives through the ropes to the floor, I'm blown away every time. I go check the floor and make sure it's okay.
Yeah, Dylan's been booked on every show I've ran in Silva, and I mean they don't really like him, but that's a good thing. He's doing his job.
Yeah.
Well, we see that all the time, guys, especially in this modern age. You get guys like Keith Lee, Samoa Joe, who you look at and you're like, they can't even leave their feet, and they do things. You're like, Keith Lee did what? Oh my God! So yeah, Gary, what you were saying, that reminds me of that big time.
You say that I was watching Keith Lee do stuff like that when we were in Killer Brooks' old barn back in 04 and 05, man. Wow. That dude's always been doing stuff. That's why when people tell me, I'm like, and
right.
That ground zero, that finishing move that he does. I took that thing about 50 times one Saturday until Killer was happy. So, when the day he come up with that as his finisher, I just took it over and over and over again. So, because I was still really, really new in training. I was still the newest student. So I just got to be the crash test dummy. And Killer was like, you're going to learn how to bump today, brother. So
it reminds me of George South telling a story one time about the first time he took a moonsault, and I can't remember who. It may have been Matt. He took it from Matt Hardy, but he said that he got slammed on the mat, and he was told, just stay right there. And he laid there and said, where are you going, brother? And he's looking around because he has no idea what's going on. So, yeah, that just jumped in my head. Gary, let's talk about the HVW Women's Champion that we crowned on June 5.
Yes, sir.
The untamable Hayden Ramsey, who has yet to defend her championship, is going to get that opportunity on October 2nd. Talk about this match against Selena Rose.
Yes, sir. I'm excited, man. Tom, unfortunately, life happened and HVW's had a couple setbacks, but I promise you, we're not out. We're coming back with a vengeance. And just, I'm very thankful for Chad and Cole giving us the opportunity to let Hayden defend the championship on this show and represent HVW. Thank you guys publicly from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for working together and Chad, me and you putting the past behind us and moving forward. And I just want the wrestling world to see that promoters can work together. And you don't have to stab each other in the back, and you don't have to talk shit about each other all the time, and you don't have to get on social media and bash each other. And Hayden's going to – I've never seen Selena Rose work, so I can't really speak of her. But I've seen Hayden work, and I know what she can do, and I think we're in for a treat.
Gary, real quick, correct me if I'm wrong, but in that night, when you crowned the women's championship, it wasn't just like some – like one-on-one matchup. You actually had 4 women in the ring getting at each other for that championship, correct?
It was. Tell them about it, Tom.
So we had Hayden Ramsey.
Wake up, Tom.
We had Hayden Ramsey and Sadie Lee Moss and Caitlin Marie in a triple threat.
Oh, triple threat. Okay.
Ella Envy decided to insert herself near the end, or after the bell rang. So that's, I'm sure there's going to be payback coming for that one. But yeah, this was a long-time feud brewing between the 3 of them, and Caitlin and Hayden have history dating back to last year. I mean, Caitlin is the reason that Hayden has a surgically repaired knee. So she had a lot to do on June 5th at Proving Ground, had a lot to right, and she righted the ship by taking the belt because, other people want to take, as Gary was saying, take cheap shots and talk smack and whatnot. While haters are hating, the rest of us are moving forward, which is what we're doing here. Because as Gary said, there is such a thing as cooperation, and other people can waste their time in the trenches, and the rest of us are going to continue evolving because it, always forward, always, as we say in HVW. We've also got to mention, Gary, the HVW championship, defended by a young man that you have quite the history with and that has been an HVW mainstay for many years against a guy who has just come to us in the past year or so. Talk about this match.
Yeah, Jake actually commented earlier that he was looking forward to this. Crucifix trained with me. I trained him. He began at HVW. Him and Randy, or Chad Jones, have spent Randy Wayne, as we know him, spent some time in the ring together with each other many times. So Crucifix has got some opportunities in the business, and I'm proud of what he's done. And this Jake Jacobs kid, he's gonna. If he don't make a mark on the business someday, if we're not sitting back watching him on TV someday, I don't know what else you got to do. But I'm looking forward to this match. Thank you guys again for allowing us to showcase this match on your card as well.
Yeah. Hey, I Crucifix is he's. I can't throw stones because I've won a few matches with questionable tactics myself, but my understanding was that finish was a little questionable there on June the 5th, but whatever works, hey, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying, right? So I don't know what else to say to that. I will say that whichever one of them walks out with a belt, I mean, I know a guy that's probably available to take it off of them at some point. Cheap plug there. But next match I guess we'll go to, guys, is one that I added a little bit later. It kind of came about. It was just luck or accident. But White Mike from the Gymnasty Boys against Hoss Haygood. Now, I've seen White Mike in person once. I've never seen Hoss work in person, but that's a big dude. So I'm curious. I'm just curious to watch this match as a fan to see how the dynamic works between the 2 men because of the clear difference in styles and appearance and probably just lifestyles in general, So, Cole, you got any thoughts on that match? You're a little bit more familiar with them than maybe I am.
Yeah, well, Mike definitely a lot more known for the tag team wrestling and everything like that. And yeah, you talk about the differences of style because Hoss Haygood is definitely that Smash Mouth style. It reminds me of a certain person that is actually pictured right below me right now. So, very similar in styles. He hits hard, and if you hit him hard, he'll just come back harder. But
Yep.
I'm not gonna sit there and think that Mike can't handle his own, because I've seen him go through some very tough challenges, and he's done a lot to improve himself over the years, and he's actually doing that now as we speak. I've actually saw on a social media page not too long ago where he said that he kind of fell off a little bit, but he's getting himself back onto the wagon, getting himself back in better shape, and putting in the extra work. And I know that he knows that this match is coming up. So it's going to be interesting to see how those two square off against each other. You're going to be surprised, I think.
Mike's got a little bit of incentive because he's also another guy that's from Silver.
Yeah.
So, he's been away for a while, but he's got deep roots there and a lot of family and a lot of friends. So, nobody wants to come into their hometown and, leave with a goose egg, So I'm curious on this match. This is the match that I don't have any idea. I just want to see it just to see what happens.
Hey, Chad, we as pro sports fans and other walks of life besides pro wrestling, you always hear about the home field advantage, NFL, NBA, baseball, what have you. I mean, is there a home field advantage? Like if you're wrestling in your hometown that night, is it a big deal to you? Is it just let me go out there and take care of business? I mean, you mentioned that about Mike, so I have to ask: does that play into your game plan for that night?
Well, I mean, I'd like to sit here and tell you there's an advantage, but I got pinned by the Heat Seekers back in May, so probably not, But I think there is somewhat of an advantage there. I mean, when you go out and these are my people, this is my hometown, this is my family, my friends, whoever I went to school with, cousins, whatever. I get a little bit of a charge out of it, knowing that my family's there, my friends and stuff. So, because a lot of people, there's a lot of people that don't get a chance to see us wrestle, maybe unless you send them a video clip that they halfway watch. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's, some of the people like, my dad will be there this time. And
that's awesome.
My dad, like last show, he was in the hospital. I didn't know, what was going to happen. And, they had to, a week after that show was over, I had him down in Chapel Hill having a heart valve replaced. So, just the idea of having my dad there this time when we nearly lost him last time. Yeah. I mean, I'd say there's a little bit of an advantage. I'm going to go in, I'm going to stick a little harder. I'm going to lay stuff in a little bit tighter, or as people would say, I'm going to put some stink on it.
Yes, sir.
And, we're talking about Haas and I and similarities. He and I have talked a lot about teaming up. I'm getting at that point, I'll be 46 next week. So, teaming up might be a little bit easier than running singles after a little while. But I'm at that point, though. I feel good, so we'll just have to see what happens. But there's definitely similarities there with Haas and I. And it was, there's the bull rope, if nothing else. So, but yeah, home field advantage. I would say that my kid and even myself have a decided advantage going into this show, which is exactly why I asked for the match that I'm in to be on this show. Is why I requested my rematch there. So
I was getting ready to ask about the show, the match at the top of the card here. Cole, talk about this match at the top of the card, man. I'm not going to ask Chad to talk himself up, but I know you probably got something to say. Let's talk about it.
Yeah. Well, all right. So we're going to have that rematch between Randy Wayne, not Chad Jones, and not Randall Wayne, the political backstage political guy that you guys don't know in the message boards that I share, against the man that defeated him after, dear Lord, it was well over a year and a half. Landon Hell, a student of Robert Gibson, of the great Rock and Roll Express. And they had, and I'm not saying this to boost Chad's ego down there. Chad's always had some good matches with us in Pro Wrestling Union, but that was definitely the best match I'd ever seen him put on. on any of my shows. And that's not tooting horns or anything like that, but I would easily, if somebody was to say contendership for match of the year for like the Carolinas, I would definitely try to push that one. Those two went hard. In fact, there was like several points during that match that, I mean, it didn't seem like neither one of these guys wanted to give an inch to each other, but they just kept colliding, and you thought that the match would be over with, but no, the guy would just keep coming back. And I mean, these two tested the limits like never before. But at the end of the night, Landon got the 1, 2, 3, and Randy Wayne shook his hand, put the belt around his waist, got on the microphone, and told the crowd in Union, South Carolina that he had to be hands down one of the best young damn talents that he had seen in a long time. And that's a huge compliment to give to one of these young guys, especially for somebody that came in and pretty much dominated anybody that got stepped in front of them. And now these two are going to have the opportunity to step back in the ring together. And I talk to Landon all the time. Sorry, Chad, but
I talk to him all the time too. It's one of those unfortunate things, but at the same time, it is fortunate. You know, hey, I've had some of my best feuds, some of my best matches, and some of my most brutal matches against some of my best friends. Gary will think that me and Drake have beat the hell out of each other all over 5 or 6 states. Same thing, guys from Texas, the underground icon Scott Summers, the ultraviolet beast Masada. I've traded match wins back and forth with Masada of all people. But these are guys that I consider family and brothers, you know, and I put Landon in that category easily. The backstory here, though, with Landon and I is that I was in a tree, topping a tree one day, and my phone rang, and so I pulled it out of my pocket. I'm sitting there on my gas, and I answered, and I said, hello, and he goes, is this Randy Wayne? I said, yeah, who's this? Oh, this is Robert Gibson. I was like, yeah, whatever, and I hung up. He called back a minute later. He goes, no, this is really Robert Gibson. I got your number from Bill Hazelwood. I need a heel down here. And so he booked me, and I went down, and I worked Landon for Robert's Promotions Championship, and I beat Landon for that championship. And then we never got to have a rematch because of COVID, and everything was vacated when Robert started back up to get a tournament, which, you know, great, good business, I'm sure. And then, you know, Landon stepped in, and hey, familiarity, I guess, and he was one step ahead of me that night. So I said that night, and I'll say it again, I was told before I went down there to Georgia to wrestle Landon that Robert had a kid down there that was going to turn this business on its ear. And I told Landon that night, and I'll tell y'all tonight, whoever said that underestimated him. He's better than that. Landon Hale is another guy that, you know, barring some weirdness, that dude's going to be on TV, whether it's Impact, Ring of Honor, AEW. Well, WWE don't want any wrestlers anymore, but you get the point. He's going to go places. He's going to do big things in this business, and I could see Landon Hale being a world champion on a major promotion at some point down the line in his future. He's young enough. 2, he's got the ability, and 3, I think his head is on straight. You know, a lot of guys come into this business like I did, and they get caught up in the wrong stuff. You know, whether it be drugs, alcohol, the wrong crowd, whatever. I just happen to fall into all 3 of those pits at different points in my career. Landon doesn't have those vices, and that's gonna be the difference maker for him and kids like him and Chase Emery. So I'm excited for this match because, hey,
just one thing though, Chad, and we might get to this in a little bit, because just like every poster that you see on today's wrestling shows, there's that little fine print, and it says card subject to change. Now, we signed for the heavyweight championship, which Randy Wayne will still get his heavyweight championship match regardless. But Landon Hale still has one obstacle to go.
The promoter gonna pull some shenanigans out on him. Here he goes. Here it goes.
Okay, I'm just, you know what? You drug Randy out, and that you keep poking me where you're going to get Randy. I don't give a damn which one it is, Cole. I really don't.
Well, like I said, Randy Wayne's still gonna get his championship match.
Hey, this is the bottom line, as Stone Cold would say. We're a clothesline from hell or a drill bit away from a new champion on October 2nd.
All right,
Yeah,
but there you go.
You can sing his praises all day long, but when you step between the ropes, you're not thinking this kid's the future. You're thinking, I'm gonna win this belt. I'm gonna take the paycheck.
Just exactly what me and Drake say every time we get in the ring together. We can apologize after. We ain't friends. And that's exactly the way this is going to be. So, and I know who you're talking about. He's got to defend against Chase Emery on the 25th at the show that we're going to go over next. So, hey, if it's Chase, if it's Landon, or if it's both of them, whatever. I've got now earlier tonight. I said, you got a man that's got something to prove. He's a little more dangerous. Well, I kind of let my guard down, and I lost my killer instinct because I let my friendship get in the way at the end of that match. I won't make that mistake twice. I don't care if it's my hometown. They can boo me all the way back to my house by any means necessary. If you wanted a promo, you just got one.
There you go. I wouldn't expect anything less. So
I'm feeling it. Gary, talk. I got to ask you about that. I got to get you in here, man. Talk about what it's like to face somebody that you're tight with. I mean, have you been in the past capable of saying, whatever happens out there tonight, I'm still your boy? I mean, can you do that, or is it as easy as he makes it sound?
Well, I mean, considering me and Randy Wayne, we've thrown down a few times, and he come and slept on my couch that night. So it's sometimes you just got to let bygones be bygones, and you settle it in the ring. And when you walk through the ropes, you leave it in the ring. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, when you step back through the ropes the next time, we'll readdress it. When we step out of the ropes, we'll leave it in the ring. Sometimes you just got to do that.
Some guys can't do it, and what I'll say to that is, if the friendship or whatever is genuine, it's still going to be there. It might be a little tense. I mean, there's been a couple times me and Drake have looked across the bar at Applebee's at each other, kind of like, all right, man, that hurt, But eventually we're over there, joking and picking on Dylan Dollar together or something. So, it's it is
picking on Dylan Dollar.
It is what it is, man. I mean, but yeah, I mean, it's you can't be friends in there. You can't.
When you step through the ropes, you're two warriors. You can't be friends, And if we're on opposite corners, I'm not going to be looking for a handshake or a tag. I'm going to be looking for the 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, eyes on the prize.
Yep.
Wait.
No, I was going to say something I used to tell a couple of guys back in the day. I would tell them, like, when we go to the ring and everything like that, I said, I don't see you as my friend. I don't see you as your man. As a man, I see you as my meal ticket. So
that's right.
There you go. Yeah, and not for nothing, kids, but the champ tends to get paid just a little bit better. So whoever's winning that match, it's going to be a little bit better of a payday for him. Let's don't forget that part of this. You guys alluded to this earlier. I want to get this in before we wrap this thing up tonight. Let's talk about this event. Chad, let's roll with you here. September 25th. Let's talk about this, the benefit for Buckshot.
Well, I mean, most people know Buck Carter, back May the 7th, right, Cole?
That's correct.
He was Buck had his ring and everything loaded up, and he was headed to Silva. He was doing the ring run for Wrestling with Life's Challenges, and he had a stroke. And then everything kind of it didn't fall apart. God always finds a way. When you turn it over to God, that's the one thing I've always learned. When you turn it over to God and let Him do His will, He'll find a way to make it work for you. And He did. He came through for us. But going back to Buck and the spiritual side of me as a human, Buck Carter is a guy since the night that I met him, randomly, out of nowhere, here and there, I'll get a text message or I'll get a Facebook message from him. Hey, Randy, I believe in what you're doing, man. I'm praying for you. And, when Cole came out and said, hey, we want to do this show and help Buck out with all his medical stuff and everything that he's had going on, I can't think of anything, short of the rapture that would have kept me from being there. Buck is one of those guys that has endeared himself to me and a lot of the boys. So I'm just excited. I'm just excited to be a part of it and be able to help somebody out that's been that good to everybody else.
Yeah.
Man, I've known Buckshot for a long time. Me and that Joker, we had wars with each other at the Chesney Coliseum for Jay Eagle and APW back in the days. Buckshot actually knocked me out in the ring, diving out of the balcony in that building with a crossbody. My head hit the ring so hard it knocked me out. We got to the back. Eagle said, brother, you were supposed to go over. I said, Chief, I was out. I couldn't kick out. I was literally out. But wow. Buckshot, I didn't even know he had a stroke, man, till I seen this poster.
Wow.
Yeah, in fact, I was somewhere between Newberry and Union County. I was on my way. I was going to see my family before heading up to Silva. And Buck, he normally calls me a good bit and everything. And my phone rang as I was on my way, and I always answer it as always. Buck, sir, how you doing? And then there was this female voice on the other line, and she just said, hey, is this Cole? And I recognize his wife, Cindy's voice. And I'm like, that's not Miss Cindy. So I was like confused. I was like, yes. And she's like, we were told to call you by Buck. They are about to load him up to the ambulance right now. And my legit job is that I work for 911 dispatch in Lexington County in South Carolina. So I was hearing Buck in the background, and I could hear that his speech was slurred and everything like that. So it automatically just hit me what was going on. But he was wanting the lady that was with him to call me to first off to say that he was sorry, like he had something to apologize for, and he didn't. But that's the kind of person that Buck is. He kind of puts others before himself a lot, and he'll give the shirt off of his back for you. And then I just asked, I said, is there anything I can do? And she asked him, and he got the words out, said, just pray for me. And it was a hard weekend because, I kept in contact with Miss Cindy, during the show on the 8th. And then the very next day on the 9th, I was on my way back to South Carolina, and Buck actually called me and tried to speak to me. And it was really hard. And I mean, like, you're going to see an adult man cry in just a moment because it still gets to me. But I love Buck Carter dearly. And he's always been a big supporter of me since the first day he and I met a couple of years ago. So I actually approached him and asked him, I said, hey, if we did this for you, is this something that you would want? And he gave me his blessing. And I'm very fortunate that we got the crew that agreed to this show. Of course, I knew Chad would be part of it. Landon Hell, Chase Emery, they're going to be going after the heavyweight championship. We had the Heat Seekers collectively, but unfortunately, Elliot Russell, he's got a family vacation where the flight plans got a little changed. So he won't be part of the show, but the other half of the Heat Seekers, or as Chad says, the brains of the operation, he'll be there. And we got a really good card, so I'm really excited for it. And, of course, all the proceeds go directly to help with his medical expenses.
Let me tell you, I'll tell you guys this real quick, and I don't want to keep, dragging this out, but I'll tell you the type of person Buck is. And this is, one of those things that'll get me emotional is he knew that we were running that show in May for Life Challenge of Western North Carolina, which is a Christ-centered all-women's rehab facility in Jackson County, and that it was a youth rally. So he had told me he was going to bring his ring up just for gas money. It's all he wanted, right? I saw Buck the next time. When was the next show we did for you down there at the fairgrounds, Cole?
We did the Ray Bit Barber Memorial Show, the Parade of Champions.
The show for Bit. Buck comes up to me. His speech still wasn't back completely. And the guy's got tears in his eyes, and he's apologizing to me because he didn't get the ring to Sylvan. And I'm like, dude, that's the last thing you need to worry about,
Wow.
But that's the type of person he is. He wanted to help out with that cause, So, for me, I mean, there ain't a whole lot I wouldn't do for Buck. But I'm excited about the show. I'm excited about the match. I mean, it was going to be interesting enough wrestling Josh Cutshaw and all 46 of his personalities. But then you get the most talented of the two heat seekers and throw him in there and give us a triple threat, and it's going to be an interesting night, to say the very least. What's the rest of the card, real quick, Cole?
All right, so the rest of the card, we actually have another thing that's going to be going on. Buck, who was part of this great band of this tag team, the Legends, all the way from like APW to CPW and stuff like that. So we're going to actually have a Four Corners elimination match where we're going to crown the Legends Cup winner, which the winners are going to eventually get a number one contendership for the tag team championships against the Heat Seekers in a future show, more likely in November. We already have the Soul Patrol, Dion Johnson and Sweet Dreams. They're part of that match. We got the Moonshine Express. We also have an opening for that, which one of the teams that's on the poster, the Heart Killers, locally hated Chris Vallo and his partner Tommy Django. And real quick, just about Chris Vallo, you want to talk about a despicable? You cannot like this individual in a wrestling show. If there's anybody that's going to walk through that curtain and you want to boo the piss out of him, Chris Vallo is that guy.
I find myself cheering for him. Sorry.
Yeah. If you're into that type of guy, yeah, you're going to be into him. But he makes it so much harder. He makes it so much harder to like him, though. Yeah. But he's got a cute kid. I'll give him that. I feel bad for the baby. But
wow. There's something you don't hear every day. I feel bad for the baby.
Wow.
Yeah. Ashley told that to the kid this weekend. They were at a WrestleForce show in Columbia, and I saw that baby. And I went over to him. I said, "Hey, little baby Vallo, God, I feel bad for you."
That's awful. That's awful.
Man, these are two. I'm telling you what I'm seeing from a distance is two big time cards for two very worthy causes. And who says pro wrestling can't do some good, kids? And who says three companies, not two, three companies can't work together? Cole, tell me how important it is that three distinct pro wrestling companies come together for one event. How big of a deal is this really?
Well, considering that, like, years ago when I first got started, it was basically unheard of because at that point, like, your territory system had already gone astray. You had like a few independent promotions that was still under the NWA banner, whether it was under like the Tolbich dynasty or I forget who, Bill Barons and all that other stuff. But they were just kind of struggling at that point. So you didn't really have any of these companies that were really doing anything to help each other out. It was, they did their own thing and you tried not to step on anybody's toes. Or if you got close enough to it, and Gary could probably tell you this along with Chad, if anybody got within close to proximity, people wanted to just like throw grenades at each other. And so I just thought that was like the norm. That was like the way of the business. And if you did business with somebody else, you could actually hurt yourself in places that you work for. But nowadays, how everything has just kind of changed and evolved. I mean, like there's people who had, I guess, either they saw what they saw and said enough's enough, or they just saw there's the potential to do good things together. And that was something that I felt strongly with. And Chad knows this when me and him first started talking about this. The name Pro Wrestling Union actually had nothing to do with my hometown because my first show was not even in Union, South Carolina. It was in Batesburg, Leesville, South Carolina, which is in Lexington County. The union is meant for unification, and that was my mission. I wanted to do business with other promoters. Start out kind of small just to see what we can work together with. And I got to do that with Classic Pro Wrestling. I got to do this with Heroes to Legends, and now we're getting a great opportunity because now we've got High Velocity Wrestling added to the mix. It just shows you that if you get people together for on the same page for a good reason, and everybody knows that we're here to do good by everybody, there's absolutely nothing that any of us can accomplish. So this is an example.
I'll put it like this, I've seen, and we've all at some level seen, people taking down posters and, people calling venues and slandering each other, and people calling the athletic commissioner and slandering each other. And at some point, what people don't realize is that makes the whole business look like trash. And I love this business. I love this business as much or more than I loved anything in my entire life. And I tell you, where this comes at for me is I've chased this business as hard as anybody's ever chased it. Maybe I didn't go to the big shows and, whatever, but I have put my time in, paid my dues, and I decided I wanted to start running my own little show. And I had my own shtick that I wanted to run, and I'm building it slowly. But I wanted to, for me, one of the things that people have a hard time when they think about Randy Wayne or they think about Chad Jones is when I talk about my faith, because most people look at me like I've got something growing straight out the center of my forehead because they know or they remember the guy that was drunk in the parking lot after the show, or that was at the bar, or that would put anything up his nose that he could get his hands on. Well, that guy's long gone. And so now I freely talk about my faith because Christ tells me, that if I acknowledge him in front of man, he will acknowledge me in front of his Father. So that's where I'm coming from when I talk about my faith. But as a Christian, I believe we lift each other up. I believe we work together for the betterment of everybody. And in doing that, spreading God's word, So it comes down to, Cole and I have had this conversation, John 3:30, he must increase, but I must decrease. Sometimes you got to put your ego aside and work together for God. That's where this show comes in. Originally it was just Cole and I. Well, I've watched Gary for several years, and I had this conversation with Gary on the phone the other night. I don't mind having it now. I was always one of those people before I rededicated my life to the Lord that I was like, oh man, Gary's he's just doing Christian as a gimmick because he's just trying to, get a few extra people in the door, get a free building out of the church or the Salvation Army. I said a lot of mean stuff about Gary is what I'm trying to get at. But I'll tell you the one thing about Gary and his faith, it's always been consistent. He's never wavered on it. So when I'm doing this show and I'm doing another youth rally and I'm praying about, God, who do we want? Who do you want me to talk to about coming and giving their testimony? The first person that hit my mind every time I got up off my knees was Gary Benfield. Well, it wasn't very long after that y'all had the building problems and stuff, and I started thinking about it. You know what? Who says we can't have three different companies have three different sets of matches and everybody defend their titles and no egos get involved? That's where it came from for me. He must increase, but I must decrease. This isn't about Chad Jones or Randy Wayne anymore. It isn't about Heroes to Legends or High Velocity or Pro Wrestling Union. This is about spreading God's word and reaching people for Christ. That's the number one thing we're doing with this show. And that's why it's so important to me. So that's out of character. That's just Chad Jones, the human being speaking. So that was a long rabbit trail, but I think it needed to be said.
I'm glad you said it, Chad. I appreciate it, brother. And I appreciate the honor to speak and share my testimony that night.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing it. I've never heard it myself, so. I mean, I know basically, kind of what you're going to say. I think, but maybe you'll surprise me. So, Cole, do you want to speak too? We got room for you.
Oh man, I'm good.
So before we wrap this up here, we've got two big events that we've covered here tonight, kids. Um, if folks can't be there, or if they can be there, first of all, how do they get there? Where can they get tickets? And if they can't be at either or show, or maybe both, whatever, I mean, can they do anything to help in any event? Chad, what can folks do watching now, or maybe after the fact? What can they do to help?
Well, with October the 2nd for Shop with the Cop, it is at the Jackson County Rescue Squad building in Silva, North Carolina. It's 327 County Services Park in Silva. All tickets are $5. First come, first serve seating. Okay. Now, what I do with these shows is, if you're listening and you've got a youth group, we do a youth group rate. $50 a youth group. That's chaperones, and I don't care if you bring 500 kids or if you bring 5. It's $50 across the board. Bring every kid you can cram in a bus. And then as far as donations go, if you want to donate to Shop with a Cop, contact the Jackson County Sheriff's Department directly. Get with Sheriff Chip Hall and make the donation to them. One thing I don't do as a promoter is I don't touch money. I feel like there's a lot of transparency that gets lost in benefit shows, so I make sure I keep that. I never work the door. I mentioned Beth James that works at the Department of Juvenile Justice. Her husband is a Jackson County Sheriff's deputy. They run the door for me. They turn the money over to the charity at the end of the night. I never see a dime of it. So that's just to protect me and wrestling as a whole, because how many times have we heard a horror story about a benefit show that money didn't go where it was supposed to? I just refuse to give
over and over and over.
I refuse to give that opportunity to somebody. So that's how I cover bases. So if you want to donate to the show or to the cause, contact the Jackson County Sheriff's Department in Silva. Talk to Sheriff Chip Hall, and I'm sure they'll be happy to take a donation. Cole, September 25th, sir.
All right, so September 25th, it's going to be at the Unifier Department in Spartanburg, South Carolina. That's 1025 Haines Street, where we used to have like the old CPW shows back a couple of years ago. The tickets are $10. It is general admission seating. In regards to any other donations or anything like that, basically anything that gets done through the ticket sales and through the concessions, we know that's going straight to Buck. But I've also kind of put it out there, and I know Chad's kind of saw it on the little message feed when I sent a format out. I said, hey, I'm selling my Pro Wrestling Union shirts. Whatever I make off the shirts is also going in the pot. If you guys are selling your own merch, that's great. Yeah, I'm not forcing you guys to give up a percentage, but I'm just letting you know this is what I'm doing. If you buy a Pro Wrestling Union t-shirt for $20, that's going straight into the pot for Buck as well. But if any other way, if you want to donate or anything like that, I would even suggest just get in contact with Buck and Cindy Carter. They're easy to find on Facebook. They're just good people. Miss Cindy, she does everything she can to make sure that Buck does everything he needs to be doing to protect himself. And Buck's been doing great in the recovery, but he's still got a little road ahead of himself. So.
Well, again, folks, two very worthwhile causes. Guys, this has been fun. Hopefully this won't be the last time we do this. We've got a little while till October 2nd gets here, but we want to continue talking about this event. And folks, if you watch this live or you're watching this after the fact, what we're going to ask is that you take this link and you put it on everywhere you can. If you've got Twitter, share it there, share it on your own Facebook, share it on your Instagram, wherever you can. And let's help get the word out. And again, if you can't be there, there's things you can do to help. And again, that's what it's all about, is giving back and doing the right thing. And again, to imagine 3 pro wrestling companies in this day and age working together, the so-called forbidden door that you hear about on TV has been a real thing for a lot of years, but not so much now. It's again, there's more benefit in working together than there is working apart. And hopefully we are setting the example. Again, for anyone out there who wants to throw shade, let them throw it. because while they're busy hating, we'll be busy rolling forward, because that's what we do. Gentlemen, thank you again for hanging out. This has been fun. I appreciate you guys. And we will talk, I'm sure, again very soon.
Tom, before we go.
Yes, sir.
Randy Wayne, not Chad Jones. Randy Wayne.
Oh,
I know you got another show coming up in May. You know, Viper turns 49 years old in May. And my plan has been the whole time, that year between 49 and 50, there's 5 matches I want to have. One of them's with Randy Wayne.
Ooh.
I'll be ready in May if you want to do it one more time.
I know the booker. I think it's doable.
the gauntlet has been thrown.
Let me take some notes here.
I know another promoter too. If we can't get it done in Silva, I know another guy. He's sitting off to my.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, yeah.
We're happy with ones you're right, Chad.
I'm gonna go ahead and just say this. It's a lot of people talk about they have their bucket list. You know, their list of guys, and for you to say that about me, man, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, you know, we've done it a time or two, and you know, there's 3 guys that I've had a blast with on the Indy circuit, and it's Steve Cronick, Randy Wayne, and Section 8.
That's right there in a minute,
dude. With those 3 guys, for me on the Indy circuit, some of the best matches I've ever had, and I'd love to do it with all of them one more time. But I know Steve Cronick and Section 8 is probably a no-go, but Randy Wayne's right in front of me, so let's lace them up one time in May.
Well, you better start going to the gym.
Hey, brother, I'm down to 214 pounds. The Viper's ready. I just got to get that cardio up.
There you go. You better
do this, man.
You better get up and start running right now.
I hear you, outlaw Randy Wayne.
I don't know what you're talking about, man. I don't run. I lift heavy stuff so I can hit hard. I don't have to run.
Yeah, that's me too.
So, all right, guys, man, it's been my pleasure. Thank y'all so much. Gary,
Thank you.
We'll look at May and we'll make that happen.
Yes, sir. Thank you, guys.
Thank you again, gentlemen. Everybody have a good night.
All right, guys.
Well, Gary, there you go, my friend. And again, big thanks to Chad and Cole for joining us here tonight. We will get back to this very soon. We're going to be talking a lot about the October 2nd show. And HVW is going to come back. I promise you, kids.
Yes, we will.
We're working on it behind the scenes. There's things going on that you don't know about. We'll be making announcements as soon as we possibly can.
Soon.
So please stay tuned. We're going to get the social media back up and running and get everything. As soon as we've got stuff to tell you, we're going to tell you about it. Well, thank you as always, Gary. I will talk to you soon, my friend.
Yes, sir, my brother. Have a great night.
Yes,
and
sir.
Peace.
Thanks again, kids. We'll see you next time. All right. Be sure you come by and check us out. Check out all our social media. And we'll talk again real soon. Thanks again for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time. HVW Official High Velocity Wrestling Podcast.